The year was 2247, and Earth had changed. Humanity was no longer confined to its home planet. Colonies dotted nearby star systems, and ships traveled between worlds as easily as cars once drove down highways. But not everything was peaceful. There were tensions, debates, and fears about what lay beyond the stars. On an orbital station called Solace *, high above Earth, a meeting was taking place. The room was round, with a large table in the center surrounded by chairs. Commander Alan Carter stood at one end, his strong voice filling the silence. Across from him sat Dr. Lisa Monroe, her sharp eyes scanning the data projected onto the wall. She was a scientist, known for her work studying alien life. With them were other leaders, all discussing something strange, a signal from deep space. The signal had been picked up days ago by a listening post near Pluto. At first, it seemed like random noise, but after careful analysis, it revealed coordinates pointing to a distant star system. What made everyone uneasy was the message embedded within the signal: "Do not come." No one knew who sent it or why, but the words carried weight. Commander Carter leaned forward, resting his hands on the table. "We can't ignore this," he said firmly. "If there's intelligent life out there trying to warn us, we need to know why." Dr. Monroe nodded slowly. "But what if it's a trap? Or worse, what if it's a test? Some species might see our arrival as aggression." Others in the room chimed in, their voices rising as they argued back and forth. Senator Andrew Mitchell, a tall man with graying hair, raised his hand to quiet the group. "This isn't just about curiosity," he said. "It's about survival. If there's danger out there, we have to face it before it finds us." Not everyone agreed. General Patricia Klein, a stern woman with short brown hair, crossed her arms. "Sending ships into unknown territory is risky. We don't even know if these coordinates lead anywhere useful." While the adults debated, a young woman named Emily Dawson sat quietly at the edge of the room. She was only 24, but her skill in decoding signals had earned her a spot on the team. Her fingers moved quickly over a small tablet, replaying fragments of the mysterious transmission. Something about it didn't feel right. It wasn't just a warning. It felt personal, almost desperate. As the meeting dragged on, Emily noticed patterns in the signal that others had missed. Hidden beneath the main message were faint traces of another layer, scrambled and incomplete. She hesitated to speak up. She was still new, and her ideas often got brushed aside. But as she listened to the heated arguments around her, she realized she couldn't stay silent forever. Finally, Commander Carter brought the discussion to a close. "We're sending a fleet," he announced. "Captain Ryan Brooks will lead the mission aboard the Eclipse *. We'll investigate, gather information, and decide our next steps based on what we find." Emily let out a slow breath. She wanted to tell them about the hidden layer in the signal, but the moment passed. For now, the decision was made. Humanity was heading into the unknown. Later that evening, Emily stayed behind in the communications lab. The dim lights cast long shadows across the walls as she worked alone. Piece by piece, she unraveled more of the hidden message. Words began to form, chilling and clear. "We tried. Too late." Her heart raced. Whatever had happened to the beings who sent the signal, it hadn't ended well. And now, humanity was walking straight toward it. The fleet was ready. 3 ships, Eclipse Vanguard and Pioneer, floated silently in orbit around Earth, their sleek hulls gleaming under the sunlight. Captain Ryan Brooks stood on the bridge of the Eclipse *, his sharp blue eyes scanning the controls as the countdown began. His voice was calm but firm as he gave orders to prepare for launch. Beside him, Lieutenant Daniel Harper, the ship's engineer, double-checked the engines one last time. Dr. Lisa Monroe joined them moments later, carrying a tablet filled with data about the mysterious signal. She looked tired but determined. "We're stepping into the unknown," she said quietly, almost to herself. No one replied. Everyone knew the risks, but they also knew there was no turning back now. With a low hum, The ships activated their hyperspace drives and disappeared into the void. The journey would take days, even with advanced technology. Inside the Eclipse asterisk, life settled into a routine. Crew members worked shifts, ate meals together, and tried not to think too much about what awaited them at their destination. Emily Dawson spent most of her time in the communications lab. Her small workspace was cluttered with notes and screens showing lines of code. She kept replaying the hidden message she had uncovered. "We tried. Too late." Those words haunted her. What had they tried? And why had it been too late? She couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was walking into danger, but she didn't know how to prove it. On the third day of the journey, something strange happened. The ships passed through a region of space filled with strange gravitational anomalies. Alarms blared as the navigation systems faltered, throwing the fleet off course. Lieutenant Harper rushed to fix the problem while Captain Brooks held steady at the helm. "What's causing this?" Brooks asked, his voice tense. Harper frowned as he studied the readings. "It's some kind of energy field. I've never seen anything like it." Dr. Monroe leaned over his shoulder, her brow furrowed. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a faint pattern in the data. "These aren't natural. They're artificial." As the crew worked to stabilize the ships, Emily noticed something odd. Buried within the anomalies were faint traces of another signal, similar to the one they had followed but weaker, almost like echoes. She couldn't make sense of it, but it felt important. When she mentioned it to Dr. Monroe, the scientist nodded thoughtfully. "It could be remnants of whatever created the first signal," Monroe said. "Maybe we're getting closer." By the time the fleet emerged from the anomalies, everyone was on edge. The experience had been unsettling, and it left them wondering what else might lie ahead. For Emily, it only deepened her unease. She couldn't help but feel they were being watched, though she had no proof. Finally, after days of travel, the fleet reached the coordinates from the original signal. What they found took their breath away. A massive structure floated in the darkness, shaped like a colossal sphere. Its surface was covered in intricate carvings that glowed faintly with an eerie blue light. It looked ancient, yet somehow still alive. Captain Brooks stared at the sight on the main screen, his jaw tightening. "That wasn't there when the signal was sent," he muttered. "Something, or someone, built this." Dr. Monroe stepped closer, her eyes wide with awe. "It's incredible. If this is truly connected to the signal, then whoever made it must have been far more advanced than us." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. As amazing as the discovery was, she couldn't ignore the warning embedded in the message. "Do not come," she whispered to herself. Now, standing before the mysterious sphere, those words felt heavier than ever. Brooks turned to his crew. "Prepare a landing party. We need answers." No one argued. Despite their fears, they all knew one thing was certain. They had come too far to turn back now. The landing party prepared quickly. Captain Ryan Brooks led the team, choosing only those he trusted most. Dr. Lisa Monroe was included for her expertise in alien technology, Lieutenant Daniel Harper for his engineering skills, and Emily Dawson because of her knowledge of the signal. Each member wore a sleek spacesuit equipped with tools and communication devices. The airlock hissed as they stepped into the shuttle, their faces tense but focused. As the shuttle approached the colossal sphere, its glowing carvings seemed to pulse faintly, almost like it was alive. The surface was smooth yet covered in intricate patterns that none of them could decipher. "This thing is enormous," Harper muttered, staring out the window. "Bigger than anything we've ever seen." Brooks nodded. "Stay sharp. We don't know what we're walking into." The shuttle landed on a wide platform jutting out from the sphere. The team stepped out cautiously, their boots making soft thuds against the metallic surface. The air around them felt heavy, though there was no atmosphere to breathe. Emily glanced at her scanner, which buzzed faintly as it picked up strange energy readings. "There's power here," she said. "This place isn't dead. It's just waiting." They moved toward a large opening in the sphere's side, a jagged archway that looked both ancient and menacing. Inside, the walls were lined with more carvings, some of which glowed brighter as they passed. Dr. Monroe ran her gloved hand over one of the symbols, her brow furrowed. "These aren't just decorations," she said. "They're telling a story." "What kind of story?" Brooks asked, his voice low. Monroe hesitated. "It's hard to say without more time, but I think it's about destruction. Look here. These images show planets breaking apart, stars dying." She pointed to another section. "And these look like machines attacking living beings." Emily felt her stomach tighten. The message they had decoded, "We tried, too late," was starting to make sense. Whoever built this place had faced something catastrophic, something they couldn't stop. "Maybe they were warning us about whatever destroyed them," she whispered. Harper knelt beside a console embedded in the wall. It was dark, but after tinkering with it, he managed to activate it. A hologram flickered to life, showing scenes that made everyone freeze. Alien creatures, tall and elegant, worked together in harmony, building cities and exploring space. But then the images shifted. Swarms of tiny, insect-like machines appeared, devouring everything in their path. Planets, ships, even the aliens themselves. The final image showed the sphere, glowing faintly as the last survivors fled inside. "They sealed themselves in here," Monroe said softly. But it wasn't enough. Brooks clenched his fists. "If those machines are still out there, we need to leave. Now." Before anyone could move, the ground beneath them trembled slightly. Lights along the walls began to brighten, casting long shadows across the room. Harper cursed under his breath. "I think I triggered something." Suddenly, a low hum filled the air. Panels on the ceiling slid open, revealing rows of small, metallic objects hanging motionless. Then, without warning, the objects dropped and began moving rapidly toward the team. They weren't solid. They were swarms of nanoscopic drones, each no bigger than a grain of sand, but countless in number. "Run," Brooks shouted. The team sprinted back toward the entrance, dodging the swarm as it pursued them. The drones tore through everything they touched, consuming metal and stone alike. One crew member tripped and fell, screaming as the swarm engulfed him. Brooks grabbed Emily's arm, pulling her forward. "Don't stop." They barely made it to the shuttle, diving inside as the swarm closed in. Harper fired up the engines just in time, lifting off as the drones clawed at the hull. Through the window, they watched the sphere collapse inward, consumed by the very machines it had tried to contain. Back aboard the Eclipse Asterisk, Brooks gave the order to retreat. But as the fleet turned to leave, sensors detected the swarm following them. It wasn't just chasing, it was drawn to their energy signatures. Emily stared at the screens, her mind racing. Humanity had found the warning. Now they had to decide what to do with it. The fleet raced through space, engines roaring as they tried to outrun the swarm. On the bridge of the Eclipse Asterisk, Captain Ryan Brooks stood rigid, his jaw clenched as he watched the sensors. The swarm was gaining, its countless drones spreading like a dark cloud behind them. Lieutenant Daniel Harper worked frantically at the controls, trying to boost the ship's speed, but it wasn't enough. "We can't keep this up forever," Harper said, his voice tight with frustration. "They're too fast." Dr. Lisa Monroe leaned over the sensor display, her face pale. "It's not just speed. They're drawn to our energy signatures. Every jump, every burst of power we use makes them chase us harder." Emily Dawson sat nearby, her hands trembling as she replayed the recordings from the sphere in her mind. The images of destruction, the desperate warnings, it all made sense now. The swarm wasn't just a weapon. It was alive, self-replicating, and hungry. It consumed everything it touched, leaving only emptiness in its wake. Brooks turned to his crew. "We need to warn Earth. If that thing reaches human-controlled space, it'll be unstoppable." But warning Earth wasn't going to be easy. The swarm was relentless, and the fleet couldn't afford to stop. Emily stared at her tablet, scrolling through fragments of the alien message she had decoded earlier. One phrase kept repeating in her head. Too late. She felt a knot tighten in her chest. Was it already too late for humanity? Back in Sol-controlled space, the United Earth Council gathered in an emergency session aboard the orbital station Solace *. Commander Alan Carter briefed the leaders on the situation, his tone grim. This isn't just a threat to us. It's a threat to every living thing in the galaxy. If we don't act now, the swarm will spread until there's nothing left. Senator Andrew Mitchell frowned, leaning forward in his chair. What do you propose? We can't fight something like that with our current technology. General Patricia Klein crossed her arms, her expression hard. We evacuate. Pull everyone back to fortified positions and prepare for the worst. No, Dr. Monroe interrupted, stepping forward. She had been brought directly from the fleet to explain what they had discovered. Evacuating won't work. The swarm moves faster than we can retreat. If we run, it will follow. And it will grow stronger by consuming everything in its path. Commander Carter nodded. She's right. Running isn't an option. But neither is hiding. We need to fight. The room fell silent as the weight of his words sank in. Fighting the swarm seemed impossible, but doing nothing meant certain doom. Emily Dawson, sitting quietly in the corner, finally spoke up. Her voice was soft but steady. There might be a way. All eyes turned to her. She took a deep breath before continuing. The aliens who built the sphere, they knew what they were dealing with. Their recordings showed how the swarm works. It thrives on energy, but maybe we can use that against it. If we overload its systems or disrupt its ability to replicate, we might be able to stop it. Dr. Monroe nodded slowly. She's onto something. The swarm's weakness could be its reliance on energy. If we create a massive electromagnetic pulse, strong enough to disable its nanobots, we might stand a chance. General Klein raised an eyebrow. That's a big if. Building something like that would take time and resources we don't have. We don't have a choice, Carter said firmly. If we want to survive, we need to try. As plans began to form, Emily felt a flicker of hope. For the first time since discovering the signal, she believed humanity had a chance, not just to survive, but to protect others from the same fate. The aliens who sent the warning hadn't been able to stop the swarm, but maybe humanity could. The council agreed to mobilize immediately. Ships were recalled from distant colonies, scientists worked around the clock on experimental weapons, and diplomats reached out to neighboring alien species for help. Humanity wasn't alone anymore. Together, they would face the swarm or die trying. The plan was set, but it wouldn't be easy. Humanity needed allies, and fast. Ambassador Laura Hughes led a small team aboard the Eclipse *, tasked with contacting alien civilizations who might help fight the swarm. Dr. Lisa Monroe and Emily Dawson joined her, their knowledge of the threat crucial for convincing others to join the cause. It was a risky move. Revealing humanity's presence to strangers could lead to distrust or even hostility, but there was no other choice. Their first stop was the Gyrethi Collective, a peaceful species known for their advanced technology. The Gyrethi lived on floating cities above an ocean-covered planet, their shimmering structures glowing softly under twin suns. When the humans arrived, they were greeted cautiously by Counselor Vren, a tall, slender alien with translucent skin that shifted colors as he spoke. "We come seeking your help," Ambassador Hughes began, her voice calm but urgent. "A danger is spreading through the galaxy, a swarm of machines that consumes everything in its path. If we don't act now, it will reach you too." Counselor Vren listened carefully as Dr. Monroe explained the recordings from the sphere and showed images of the swarm's destruction. Emily added her insights about the swarm's reliance on energy, emphasizing how vulnerable it might be to targeted attacks. For a long moment, Vren was silent, his skin flickering between shades of blue and green. Finally, he spoke. "Your warning is troubling, but also brave. We have faced threats before, though none like this. If what you say is true, we will stand with you." Relief washed over the team, but they knew one alliance wasn't enough. Their next destination was the Korthan Empire, a warlike species notorious for their aggression. Warlord Jarek, a towering figure with armor covered in battle scars, greeted them with suspicion. His red eyes narrowed as Ambassador Hughes explained the situation. "Why should we care about your problems?" Jarek growled. "If this swarm is real, let it destroy our enemies first." Emily stepped forward, her heart pounding. She chose her words carefully. "This isn't about taking sides. The swarm doesn't care who you are. It will consume you just like it did the aliens who built the sphere. Fighting it isn't just about survival. It's about proving your strength." Jarek's expression softened slightly, intrigued by her boldness. After a long pause, he nodded. "Very well. The Korthans will join you. Not because we trust you, but because we want to see if these machines are truly as dangerous as you claim." With two powerful allies secured, the coalition began to take shape. Other species followed suit, some out of fear, others out of curiosity or a desire for unity. Together, they devised a strategy. Lure the swarm into a trap using decoy ships equipped with experimental EMP devices designed to disable the nanobots. Back aboard the Eclipse Asterisk, Captain Ryan Brooks prepared his strike force. He would lead the mission to deploy the EMPs directly into the heart of the swarm. Though skeptical of working alongside aliens, he couldn't deny their contributions. The Gyrathi provided quantum shielding to protect the fleet, while the Korthans supplied weapons capable of piercing the swarm's outer layers. As the fleet assembled near the edge of human-controlled space, tension filled the air. Soldiers checked their gear, engineers tested equipment, and diplomats made final appeals for cooperation. Emily stood on the bridge of the Eclipse Asterisk, watching the growing armada. She felt a mixture of hope and dread. This was humanity's chance to prove itself, not just as survivors, but as protectors. When the swarm finally appeared on the horizon, a dark wave stretching across the stars, everyone held their breath. The battle was about to begin, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The battle began with a flash of light. The coalition fleet moved into position, their ships spread out in a wide arc to face the swarm. Captain Ryan Brooks stood on the bridge of the Eclipse Asterisk, his eyes fixed on the massive wave of drones approaching. The swarm stretched across space like a living storm, its surface shimmering as countless nanobots shifted and swirled. "Deploy the decoys," Brooks ordered. Small, unmanned ships launched from the fleet, their engines glowing brightly as they raced toward the swarm. The plan was simple but risky. Draw the swarm's attention to the decoys, then strike its core with the EMP devices. If it worked, the EMPs would disable the swarm's ability to replicate and consume. If it failed, the fleet would be overwhelmed. The swarm reacted instantly, drawn to the decoys' energy signatures. Thousands of drones surged forward, engulfing the smaller ships in seconds. Sparks flew as metal dissolved, leaving only empty space behind. Emily Dawson watched the scene from her station, her hands gripping the edge of her console. "It's working," she whispered. "They're following the decoys." But the swarm was smarter than anyone expected. After destroying the decoys, it split into multiple groups, some heading straight for the fleet while others circled around, cutting off escape routes. Alarms blared as enemy drones slammed into the shields of the Allied ships. The Gyrathi vessels, protected by their quantum shielding, held firm, but the Korthan ships weren't as lucky. Their armor crumbled under the relentless assault, forcing them to retreat. "We can't hold them off forever," Lieutenant Daniel Harper shouted from the engineering station. Sweat poured down his face as he worked to keep the Eclipse Asterisk systems running. "Shields are at 40%. Brooks clenched his jaw. "We need to deploy the EMPs now. Target the center of the swarm, wherever it's thickest." Dr. Lisa Monroe nodded, her fingers flying over the controls. "The core should be right here, she said, pointing to a dense cluster of drones near the middle of the swarm. If we hit that spot, it might collapse the entire system. The strike force launched, a mix of human and alien pilots flying directly into the heart of the swarm. Explosions lit up the darkness as ships fired missiles and lasers, trying to clear a path. Captain Brooks led the charge, his fighter weaving through clouds of drones. Beside him, Warlord Jarek's ship roared past, its cannons blasting away at anything in range. Emily stayed on the Eclipse *, coordinating the attack. Her voice was steady as she relayed information to the pilots. "You're close, just a little farther," she said, watching the distance to the swarm's core shrink. Suddenly, one of the Corthan ships exploded, sending debris spiraling into space. A cry went up from the crew, but there was no time to mourn. The EMP devices were armed and ready. Brooks gave the order, "Fire." Bright pulses of energy erupted from the strike team's weapons, slamming into the swarm's core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the swarm began to falter. Drones froze mid-flight, their movements slowing as the EMP disrupted their systems. Large sections of the swarm collapsed inward, consumed by the very chaos that had once driven them. But the victory came at a cost. Many ships were lost, and countless lives sacrificed. Brooks' fighter was damaged, forcing him to eject just before his ship exploded. As he floated in the void, watching the swarm disintegrate, he knew the fight wasn't over yet. Back on the Eclipse *, Emily felt a surge of relief, but also grief. The galaxy was safe for now, but the scars of the battle would remain. Humanity had proven itself willing to fight for survival, and for others. It was a message they hoped would echo across the stars. The battle was over, but the cost weighed heavily on everyone. The Coalition fleet limped back to Sol-controlled space, their ships battered and scarred. Many had not returned at all. Captain Ryan Brooks survived, though barely. Rescued by a Gyrethi vessel, he spent days recovering in the medical bay of the Eclipse *. His face was pale, his body weak, but his spirit remained unbroken. He had done what he set out to do, protect humanity and its allies. Emily Dawson sat alone in the communications lab, staring at the screens in front of her. The swarm was gone, destroyed by the EMPs, but she couldn't shake the images from her mind. The recordings of the alien civilization, the desperate warnings they had sent, it all felt too close. Humanity had come so close to sharing their fate. She wondered if the galaxy would ever truly be safe. Commander Alan Carter called a meeting aboard the orbital station Solace *. Leaders from every species involved in the battle gathered to discuss what came next. Ambassador Laura Hughes stood before them, her voice steady as she addressed the room. "We faced something none of us could have imagined," she said, "but together we stopped it. This victory belongs to all of us." Councillor Vryn of the Gyrethi Collective nodded. "This proves that cooperation can overcome even the greatest threats. Let this be a lesson to us all." Warlord Jarek of the Corthans crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. "Your species showed courage," he admitted grudgingly. "Perhaps there is value in working with others after all." Dr. Lisa Monroe stepped forward, holding up a small device. It contained the recordings from the sphere, the final message of the lost alien civilization. "Their warning saved us," she said softly. "They tried to fight the swarm, but they were alone. We were not. That made all the difference." Emily listened quietly, her heart swelling with pride and sorrow. Pride for what humanity had achieved, and sorrow for those who had been lost. When the meeting ended, she approached Commander Carter. "What happens now?" she asked. Carter smiled faintly. "Now we warn the galaxy. We tell every species, every civilization about the swarm, and we let them know that humanity stands ready to help if danger comes again." The decision was unanimous. A broadcast signal was prepared, carrying a simple but powerful message. "This is humanity. We mean action. Together, we stand against extinction." The transmission would reach across star systems, spreading hope to those who heard it. In the weeks that followed, life began to return to normal, or as close to normal as it could be. Earth celebrated the victory, honoring the brave men and women who had fought. Emily found herself thinking about the future. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and dangers yet unknown. But for the first time, humanity wasn't alone. Bonds forged in battle had created friendships that would last for generations. As the Eclipse drifted through space, Emily gazed out a viewport at the endless stars. She thought about the aliens who had sent the warning, their desperate plea echoing through time. They hadn't succeeded in stopping the swarm, but their message had reached humanity, and humanity had answered. Her reflection in the glass caught her eye, and she smiled faintly. The galaxy was still dangerous, but humanity had proven itself capable of standing against the darkness. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, not just as humans, but as part of something greater. The words of the broadcast echoed in her mind one last time. This is humanity. We mean action. And with that, Emily knew the story was far from over.